Principal Kristin Greer, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show to share your story with our viewers and our listeners. Could you please tell us what's going on in your life and your K-12 career right now?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Williams, for having me. I'm excited to be part of your show. Currently, I just closed out the school year yesterday. So I am super excited. Yep, exactly. Closing out the school year, I hail from Chicago, currently working in a school in Brooklyn, New York. And it's a charter high school. It's an alternative charter high school.
Okay.
And I'm excited because right now is the opportunity. I love the closing, but I also know we're preparing for the beginning again. And it always speaks to a story in my personal life. And so I'm excited for that. I am also a consultant and a speaker and an author. And so, and now I'm back in school. So I'll be spending my summer just focusing on releasing a book and working in school. And also I've been connected with some amazing opportunities and to help strategize with some districts and some networks. And so I'm really looking forward to working with other schools and school leaders and hopefully planning a leadership. So I started a leadership academy a couple of years ago, and people have been asking about if I would do it again. And I'm excited to do it again. It's for new and emerging leaders, and it's just a coaching opportunity through individualized coaching and group coaching to really prepare new and emerging leaders for the year ahead. Nice. And I'll probably, start that work very soon. So
that is super cool. Man, you have a lot going on, and that's really cool. I mean, that's a lot to unpack for us.
I'm very thankful.
No, that's really, really great. So you're at a charter high school in Brooklyn, New York, but you're a Midwest girl. You're from Chicago.
From the Chi.
From the Chi. So how does someone from Chicago, Illinois, end up in Brooklyn, New York?
Well, if you want my truth, it's all God. But
okay.
I am a woman of faith, and I will definitely tell you, first and foremost, I believe that this was divine for me to be here. But let me give you a little bit of that story. So I kind of got bamboozled into education, and I'm sure many people listening probably feel the same way, but I'll tell you how. So at about age 21, I was graduating from college in the Midwest. I went to school in Michigan, and I actually went to school for theater. And I was excited. I actually moved to the West Coast during my junior year to determine if I would move to LA after my senior year. Decided that was not the right fit for me.
Okay.
And knew that New York was the place that I wanted to be. So I was preparing myself for New York, did a showcase in New York, stayed in Brooklyn at the time.
Okay.
Super excited. I'm like, I'm moving to New York. I get back, I graduate. I get back home, my parents look at me and they say, well, who's going to pay for your apartment in New York? I'm like, you. And they say, absolutely not. So you're going to have to get a job and you're going to have to, do what you need to do. And at the time, I had opened up a nonprofit, a performing arts company, which was, I guess, my first school for ages 5 and up. We went all the way up from 5 to like 55 years old. And I really wanted to bring the arts into the inner city.
Okay.
And specifically because I felt like our communities were rich and full of artistic talent and just wonderful capabilities. But yet there may have been some inequities around their abilities to reach higher levels and platforms in the arts. And so my main focus was to train artists as professionals and people deemed to be amateurs and to give them showcase opportunities. And so I was doing that while I was a junior and senior in college. And I was going from Michigan back to Chicago. And at the end of my senior year, once I graduated, I'm like, I want to put my full force into the company. And that company began to just continue to grow. And we were traveling and touring, and I was doing showcases at DePaul University, and it's escaping me, but the McCormick Center and things like that. Sure. And that began to just grow. And my dad, who I absolutely love, he looked at me, he said, okay, you got to get a real job. Nonprofit means no profit. Yeah. And in my mind, just having this servant heart, just like wanting to see this happen. I wasn't really thinking in that way, but I started to look for a job, and I started to do acting gigs, and got connected to a couple of shows, was super excited about that. And then the entire industry in Chicago went on hiatus. Oh, wow. And for me, that was a new term. That was just a new experience, because that meant that everything was just kind of on a break, very similar to education, a summer break. And this pressure of, I got to get a job, I have to, build up my income to move to New York, was just luring and looming over me. And my cousin said, well, listen, and my cousin is a producer in the entertainment industry. And she said, look, there is a way you can get money quickly, but listen to me very closely. They will suck you in. And I'm just keeping it real with everybody listening.
Yeah, she forewarned.
Listen, sign up to be a substitute teacher. Yeah. They will suck you into education. So I said, okay, I'll do it. When I tell you I signed up that day, it was the most simplest process that I probably could have ever imagined. Yeah. I called a school. I called a list of schools. I started from A onward, and someone had recommended starting with charter schools. So I started. By the time I got to B, they said, "Can you come in right now?" Wow. And I was just like, "Yeah, I can come in right now." Yeah. Like an hour to get dressed, And I got dressed and I went, and they loved it the first day. And they said, "Can you stay for this teacher's maternity leave?" Wow. And it was like kindergarten. And I was like, sure, And of course, just being very young at that point, I was just being honest, like, okay, this should be easy. I've been around children all my life. Mm-hmm. And then I got picked up at another school. Someone else heard that I was doing this, and that school asked me to be a 5th grade teacher. Okay. And then I they consolidated both 5th grade classrooms. I was the only teacher in the class. Wow. And they told me that these students, they just needed me to get them orderly. They're like, all we care about is their behavior. And I was like, oh, that's easy. So they turned around, and I was like, thank you for turning it around. Now we're going to split the class back up and hire 2 teachers. And I was like, okay. And it was like, we're going to thank you so much. So I'm like, all right. So it's kind of like a gig, in my mind. I'm like, all right, well, let me go back to my normal living. Sure. And at that point, I was used to the income. Right. Yeah. And they called me back over their spring break, and they said, we have a permanent position for you for the rest of the school year. Would you be interested? I said, yes, I would be, because I really enjoy working with the kids. And I brought the arts into the classroom, and it made it very engaging for students. I didn't even know that word at the time, engagement, but we were having a good time, Sure. And I taught this 6th grade class, and by the end of the year, they offered me a contract for the next year. And then I stayed on the next year, and then I stayed on the next year. And the next thing you know, I'm looping with kids. And next thing you know, I had to go back to school to get my teaching cert and all of that, and then became the teacher of the year within the network. And then now they're asking, for me to mentor teachers. And I look up and I'm like, wait, this was not my plan, And I had a moment, where I had to make a decision. Will I continue to do this, or will I forsake this? And I prayed in my heart, and I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. That's just what led me into education. From there, I left that organization and went into alternative high school. Okay. And I've worked at a middle college in Chicago. So our students were graduating with high school diplomas and college credits. Sure. And I got the opportunity to be an assistant principal with the principal there, and coming into a turnaround experience. She had been there, I think, a year prior to me. And we ended up turning that school around from a needs improvement school to a distinguished school, which is the highest level school. And that was really great work. And then my mentor recommended me come to New York. And so I didn't go to the school she recommended, but I did some research on my own, and I came to a school in Brooklyn while being offered the school in Chicago. So it was just like a big decision point, and I made the decision. I thought that I was coming to New York for acting. Little did I know I was coming to help a disenfranchised community shine a light on the amazing students, scholars, families, and the community. And so it's been a great journey these last 7 years.
That's awesome. 7 years, same school. I can imagine that it's a school of excellence now after 7 years. That's amazing. I'm sure you have plenty of stories to share about some of the successes that you've had as far as students are concerned. But when you think about your 7 years in school, what do you like most about being the principal of the current school that you're in? And what do you like least about being the principal at the school you're in?
Yeah, so now what I love is my staff team. Anybody that's on this phone knows how hard it is to really get everybody on the same page. And I love the fact that I have teams of leaders. My focus has always been about leadership, transformational leadership, and really being able to develop leaders, build their capacity, and really, as a former teacher, I think there's something that we all know, there's something that happens from teaching into administration. Yeah. And it's a scary place, right? It can be. And I never wanted to be that. I consider myself, and I'm told I'm an unconventional educator, leader. And I don't want my staff, feeling like this us versus them culture. And so it has been a 7-year journey to really, of course, everything we hear about good to great, all right, from John Maxwell. I study a lot with John Maxwell, Craig Rochelle, just different leaders and leadership strategies, and really want to focus on culture. Oftentimes, yes, it is students first, right? But very similar to the medical industry, in order for you to be whole and well, in order for you to impact the lives of youth, you have to be in a place where you feel like you can be impactful and you feel that you are whole and well and you can provide. And it hasn't been easy. And I'm not saying that we all sit around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but what we are is a synergistic team. Everyone understands their role. And I work in a very, very difficult sector of education, a place where many people would not want to be in, and that's considered alternative education. And so really having the right people on board and empowering them, towards their next steps and what they want to be and how they want to impact education. And of course, making an atmosphere where we capitalize on the students first, but we also recognize that our wellness and our holistic well-being is important. So that's what I really, really like right now, is that when I look around, everybody is functioning, in the way and in the capacity that they should be. And I see growth and I see synergy.
Awesome.
What I least like about my current role is that every round, I say every round kind of goes higher and higher. So you continue to see things, and I'm seeing things a lot differently post-pandemic. I'm seeing a demand for a school community and schools across this country to go back to something that was ruptured through significant trauma. And I'm seeing this, and it's maybe not be everywhere, but from the educators that I speak with, and not just only in my school community, I see this need and this desire for things to go back to being the same. It's like having major surgery and someone's like, get up and run. If you had major leg surgery, get up, let's go, And I know that there is, my mom, for example, had major knee surgery. First thing they want you to do is get up, right? But they don't expect you to run.
Sure.
Right. Or they don't expect for your lateral movement to be the exact same as it once was before trauma. And I want to impact that space with innovation. And I least like it because oftentimes I feel very stifled in education because I don't come from an educational mindset. I come from an artistic mindset. Okay. And in the arts, we learn from everything, you know, good, bad, and indifferent. And I was told that that's what education should be. You should learn, but we don't, you know, from my experience, you know, there are a lot of times where we are not really learning, but we are sort of putting different terminology to different things, differentiation and modification and technology, 21st century, like, and all these different words. But, you know, there's a lot of massaging that needs to happen after a crisis. Sure. And like, what does it look like? We are researchers of what is happening to human behavior after a significant crisis that affected all of us at one time.
Yeah, that's right. You're so right. I mean, the worldwide pandemic has impacted all of us. And I agree with you. I think, the Chinese symbol for crisis is danger on one side and opportunity on the other side. And, while, this definitely was a crisis and this definitely, had some, obvious, there were plenty of people all over the world, quite frankly, that were impacted, through the sickness related to COVID, the death related to COVID. So I'm minimizing that in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely. But I also felt like it, particularly with our industry, the education profession, this was also an opportunity. And I don't know, to your point, if we're really truly taking advantage of that opportunity, because there were a lot of things in K-12 education that were kind of broken and dysfunctional. And how do we really fix that? And I don't know if we're doing a good job of, like you said, just being innovative and thinking outside of the box. And, instead of saying, oh, let's just go back to the way things used to be, And so I agree with you in that regard. Yeah. That concerns me as well. But, also sometimes our K-12 profession gets a bad rap. So, Kristin, my question to you is, why do you believe that K-12 education is a noble profession?
Because I believe the children are our future.
Absolutely. Start singing like Whitney.
I know. I was getting ready to sing it. But I really do. Like, I think about this little young Black girl from the inner city of Chicago, growing up in the times of the Cabrini Green era. And if you know anything about Chicago in the Cabrini Green era, it was like a significant time of violence and gang violence and drugs and just depravity. And I remember being 7 years old. I was going to a Catholic school at the time, and a young man was gunned down outside of our school. Wow. Now, in the day we live, right? Like, that's like, oh, okay, But at that time, it was such a heavy weight. And the news stations and everybody came, and Oprah even came to the school. Oh, and she did a documentary. And me and my siblings, we were actually featured in that documentary. And it was off the book, There Are No Children Here. It's a fantastic book. It's based on that. But I remember, like, that level of trauma has such a significant piece of, I guess, I'm going to say the word again, rupturing, on how I think about the longevity of my life. I remember, thinking it would be a blessing to get to my 21st birthday. Wow. Like just growing up in that environment. But then, so that sounds grim and gory, right? But there's so much beauty to this story because there were so many educators, both in the classroom and in the school environment and in a non-traditional environment, home, communities, church, just different environments that impacted and said, listen, you are going to be great. You are going to lead. You are going to do this. You're going to do that, and gave me opportunities and invested in me and gave me resources. And starting with my parents first, of course, and then leaking out into those in their circles and those that I met, and teachers and principals and, just community figures. And I think about that investment and how it's my responsibility to invest again, right? Yes. The return of investment for them is me. And for me, the return of investment is them. And I want to see them, and by them, all the kids that I've ever impacted, and the ones that I will soon impact. They haven't even been born yet, and those that will continue to be impacted beyond my living on this earth. I want to see a significant change. One of my favorite quotes in getting to education, I know it's common, but is to be the change you wish to see in the world. And not only do I want to be the change, not only do I want to see the change, but I want to help the next generation identify what is necessary in the future, because they are the ones that will be living it and will be controlling their destinies. And so for me, that's why. Now, I've fallen in love with children and working with, children back years ago. But what really took me into, just K-12 leadership, and even beyond K-12, is this idea of educating teachers and leaders and supporting them, because, like you said, there's a bad rap that comes with it, and there's an exhaustion and there's a weariness, but there are people that really, really want to do this and just need some guidance. I remember every story that I told you, my first experience in the classroom, it was like somebody throwing me in a room and locking the key and never coming back to get me out, Wow. And for someone that's coming in and not really knowing what to do and how to get it done, I probably made a lot of mistakes, right, earlier on, sure. But there were people that like just nudged me in the right ways, even if it may not have been, okay, here's a curriculum, this is how you teach a curriculum. But I have fallen in love with the way we can teach this next generation, and they keep evolving, right? And so posturing myself as a learner first with learners makes it even the more exciting, because we get to just continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to make changes and impact.
I love that. That is so good. So you've been in your current school for 7 years. Mm-hmm. How long have you been in K-12 education?
At least I think I'm going into my 16th or 17th year.
Right. Start losing count after.
I know. Like I used to count. I'm like, okay. Yeah. I don't know. But I know it's definitely 16 or 17 years.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
What does Kristin see herself doing long term in K-12 education?
Well, there's a lot that's coming. There's a lot that's coming. This is just the beginning. When I first decided, okay, I'm going to be a teacher, I was like, okay, I love this. I was so comfortable. Every time I get comfortable and I do it well, I'm called to another level, and it's great, but it's definitely another level, of like, right.
Yeah.
So, right now, obviously, I love leading the school community that I'm a part of. But I've been fortunate to be asked to do other things outside of it, the traditional school environment.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I've developed a network of educators, and I'm looking for a global impact. But right now, we're going to start with the United States. Okay. And looking for educators right now that are interested in being a part of a network. And here's what I would like to do. Actually, the name of my company is called the Excel Educators Empowerment Network.
Okay.
And I want to be a wellness center for educators. And I don't mean just SEL or wellness only. I mean for the educator, like a hub across every state where you can tap in, like you can kind of come in and get what you need, whether that's coaching, support, resources, tools, but in each state, because each state has its own territorial jurisdictions and different things like that. And so I'm currently looking for, educators to be a part of that network.
Okay.
And so we will be hosting some conferences. There'll be some awesome things happening in the near future. Okay. I'm charter bred, but I'm not necessarily only for charters, right? I'm not one of those like only charter people. I'm for everybody in education, private, public. It doesn't matter to me because we're all doing the same work. But
Right.
because I've been in alternative education for the last 10 years, I really, really want to have a platform within alternative education that allows alternative educators to connect. It can feel like a forgotten sect of the educational industry. And that's important. Then there's, of course, curriculum coming down the line, some books and just some other things. And obviously I'm doing research right now as I complete my doctorate degree. And just looking into innovative school designs and, how can we best do what we talked about, that find that space of opportunity and maximize that across this country and beyond. So there's some great things coming up, and it's starting, of course, within the community that I serve, but it expands out into others. I've been fortunate to be asked to provide strategies to different school boards, and looking forward to doing some strategy, becoming a strategist with different school leadership and beyond, for those that are listening and things like that. Like there's definitely work in the classroom, but then there's also some additional things that take place to keep a school functioning and running that I think are pertinent. So it's a lot happening, but as long as I continue to get breath, I will continue to advocate for the disenfranchised. I will continue to be a champion of education for disenfranchised communities.
That is super awesome. And you have a lot on your plate. Soon to be Dr. Kristin Greer. I love that. Yeah, just keep doing your thing. We're definitely fortunate as a K-12 community to have leaders like yourself. Kristin, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have made the decision to become a K-12 educator, given your art background and what you originally had planned to do with your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would do it. I would, now that I know like where I am and where I'm going, I would have not complained. I would not wasted as much time, trying to understand how this all works. I would have jumped in differently. But I think my naivete helped me because I didn't understand a lot of things earlier on. But I would do it over and over and over again.
That's awesome. Well, Kristin, I want to take the time to honor you and acknowledge you for all the work that you've done in the school communities that you've worked with over the last 16 years. I started this show to really showcase and highlight people like yourself that are doing such great work across our country and, quite frankly, across the world. So I definitely want to honor you for all the good work that you have done and that you will continue to do in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And thank you for just listening, those that are listening. I really appreciate it. K-12 educators, let's keep it going. Let's keep the fire hot and let's continue to be inspired. I really appreciate this opportunity to come on your show.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And, I want to thank you for coming on the show because, it's amazing that so many great educators like yourself are so open and transparent about your journey. And I just know that people get value out of, hearing other people's stories. So I'm very grateful to you for coming on the show and sharing your story. But before you leave, could you give our listeners and our viewers some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. Well, right now, I know that this is, whenever you're listening to this, you may be going through a lot right now. I want to encourage you that the faces that you see before you or the lives that you get to impact, whether indirectly, directly, it's making a difference. It is absolutely making a difference. The confrontations that you've had to have, the challenges that you've had to endure, thinking about the next generation and the future, you are planting seeds, you are watering seeds of greatness. And I know you know this, but sometimes connecting back to that why is necessary. So I just encourage you, keep pursuing excellence in education and keep pursuing to be the change that you wish to see in the world. You can reach me multiple different ways. So first and foremost, I do have a website that you can connect with me on, Kristin Joy Greer, Greer.com. That's Kristin, Kristin, Joy, Joy, Greer, Greer.com. You can check me out there. You can connect with me on there. I'm also on Instagram at Principal Kristin Greer. On Instagram, on Facebook, Kristin J. Greer. Just type in Kristin J. Greer. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can even shoot me an email at Kristin at KristinJoyGreer.com.
Awesome. That is so great. Well, I can tell your future is so bright, and I definitely want to, maintain, connection with you, because there's definitely greatness within you, and I'm just excited to see what your future brings and, how that's going to impact our K-12 community. So thanks again for coming on the show, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Keep the show going. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Take care. All the best.